Hey everyone, welcome back to Talk Tickers. Now, you know us for breaking down those earnings calls, but today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be diving deep into some major news from the pharmaceutical world.
It's pretty big news for sure.
Yeah. So Eli Lilly, they're making some serious moves, and we need to unpack what it all means for healthcare, for the stock market, really, for all of us.
Absolutely. There's a lot to cover, so let's jump right in.
All right. So first up, Eli Lilly just shelled out a cool $2.5 billion to buy a cancer drug program from Scorpion Therapeutics.
Wow, 2.5 billion. That's a serious chunk of change.
Right, must be something special. So what's the deal with this cancer drug?
Well, it's not just any cancer drug. It's a PI3K inhibitor, which is a type of targeted therapy that blocks a specific enzyme that's often overactive in cancer cells.
Okay, so it's like a sniper rifle instead of a shotgun blast.
Exactly. It's all about precision medicine, tailoring treatments to the specific molecular fingerprint of a patient's cancer.
So less collateral damage to healthy cells. That's pretty amazing.
Big
But also kind of risky, right? I mean, haven't we seen targeted therapies fail to live up to the hype before?
Yeah, you're right to be cautious. Not every targeted therapy is a home run, but the science behind PI3K inhibitors is pretty solid. And what's really interesting about this specific drug is that it targets a subtype of PI3K that's been linked to a bunch of different types of cancers.
So potentially a wider range of applications. That could be a game changer. But hold on. Eli Lilly's news doesn't stop there. They've also got this drug Terzepitide that's already approved for treating type 2 diabetes, but now it's making waves in the weight loss world.
Yeah, Terzepatide's really turning heads. Some people are calling it a potential blockbuster drug.
Really? Why all the hype?
Well, in clinical trials, it's been shown to help people achieve some pretty remarkable weight loss. Some people have lost up to 20% of their body weight.
Wow, 20%. That's a lot more than I've heard about with other weight loss medications.
Right. It's pretty impressive. So it's definitely caught the attention of both the medical community and investors.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. So how does this Terzepatide actually work? Is it just suppressing appetite or something else going on?
It's actually pretty ingenious. It mimics two naturally occurring hormones in our bodies, GIP and GLP-1. These hormones play a key role in regulating blood sugar and also in making you feel full after you eat.
So it's like tricking the body into thinking it's already had enough.
In a way, yeah. It's like hijacking the body's own signaling system to control both blood sugar and appetite.
That's pretty clever. So we've got a potential blockbuster cancer drug and a weight loss medication that's exceeding expectations.
Yeah, Eli Lilly is making some big moves.
But it's not all sunshine and roses in the pharmaceutical world.
Yeah.
While Eli Lilly is riding high, another company, Overactive Therapeutics, is facing some tough realities.
That's right. Viracta specializes in treatments for virus-associated cancers, and they've recently had to make some difficult decisions, restructuring, reducing their workforce.
It's a reminder that the biotech world is a roller coaster. Not every company can be a success story. And sometimes even promising companies have to make tough choices to stay afloat.
Absolutely. It's a high-risk, high-reward industry, and not everyone comes out on top.
Well, it's a sobering thought. But since we're on the topic of contrasting fortunes, I think it's time for our signature segment. This is not financial advice. Ready to dive into some wildly irresponsible speculation.
Always up for a little reckless brainstorming. What kind of crazy but plausible trade idea are we cooking up today?
All right, so we've got Eli Lilly with its potential blockbuster drugs and ambitious acquisitions. Then we've got Viracta facing restructuring and a narrower focus. This divergence is practically screaming, pairs trade is...
Well, pairs trade. I like where you're going with this.
Picture this. We go long on Eli Lilly, betting on their potential growth. And simultaneously, we short Viracta, anticipating further decline. This way, we profit from the relative performance of one stock against the other, even if the overall market stays flat.
Like a seesaw. One side goes up, the other goes down. I get it. But what's the logic behind this trade? What are the factors that could fuel this performance gap?
Well, for Eli Lilly, there's the potential for huge revenue growth from that cancer drug acquisition and the expansion of Terzepatide's use. The market is clearly excited about these developments, and that excitement could translate into a sustained upward trend for Eli Lilly's stock price.
Makes sense. And on the flip side, Viracta's restructuring and workforce reduction aren't exactly inspiring confidence. It suggests they're facing some headwinds, and that could lead to more investor pessimism.
Right, two ships sailing in opposite directions. But of course, as with any trade, there are risks. Eli Lilly's acquisitions and drug developments might not pan out as expected.
And Viracta could surprise us. They could turn things around or find a buyer for their remaining assets.
Exactly. It's a reminder that in the world of investing, nothing is certain.
Which is why this is not financial advice segment is purely hypothetical, for entertainment only, and definitely not a recommendation to buy or sell any securities.
Disclaimer firmly in place. Anyone considering a trade like this needs to do their own thorough research, understand the risks involved, and talk to a qualified financial advisor.
Absolutely. We're just having a little fun exploring possibilities.
Exactly. But let's not get too carried away with our speculative adventures. We've got a lot more to unpack in our deep dive into Eli Lilly and the future of healthcare.
Right, we've only just scratched the surface.
So stay tuned, folks. Things are about to get even more interesting.
So before we got sidetracked with our hypothetical trading adventure, we were talking about how Eli Lilly's Terzepitide is generating buzz not just for weight loss, but for its potential to address a whole slew of health problems. It's like we're witnessing the birth of a blockbuster drug in real time.
It's pretty exciting stuff. You mentioned it mimics those natural hormones, GIP and GLP-1, to help regulate blood sugar and appetite. But you also hinted at applications far beyond those areas. It seems like every week there's news about Terzepitide being studied for something new. What's got researchers so fired up about this drug?
Well, it's that ripple effect we talked about. When a drug effectively targets a fundamental biological process, it often has these positive knock-on effects in seemingly unrelated areas.
Like a domino effect.
Yeah, exactly. And for example, Terzepatide's success in treating type 2 diabetes and obesity makes it a prime candidate for tackling cardiovascular disease.
That makes sense. Obesity and type 2 diabetes are major risk factors for heart problems. So if you can manage those conditions, you'd expect to see improvements in heart health as well, right?
Exactly. And the research seems to back this up. There have been clinical trials specifically looking at Terzepatide's effectiveness in reducing the risk of major adverse cardiovascular events like heart attacks and strokes. And the early results look promising.
So potentially preventing some of the leading causes of death worldwide.
Exactly. If Terzepatide proves itself in this arena, its impact on public health could be huge.
That's incredible.
Hmm.
But I'm curious about how Terzepatide might be protecting the heart. Is it simply a consequence of weight loss and better blood sugar control? Or is there something more going on at a cellular level?
That's a great question, and one that researchers are still investigating. It seems that Terzepatide might have direct effects on the heart beyond just improving metabolic health. There's evidence suggesting it could reduce inflammation in blood vessels, improve blood flow, and even protect heart muscle cells from damage.
So it's not just treating the symptoms, it's potentially addressing the underlying causes of heart disease.
That's the idea. And that's what has researchers so excited. The potential therapeutic applications of Terzepatide seem to expand every day. Researchers are looking into its use for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, polycystic ovary syndrome, even some neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's.
Wow, it sounds almost too good to be true. One drug with the potential to positively impact so many different aspects of human health.
It does sound a bit like science fiction, but that's the power of scientific discovery. You never know where it might lead. But with all this potential comes a lot of responsibility. We need to make sure that Terzepatide is used safely and effectively.
Absolutely. Just because a drug shows promise in early studies doesn't mean it's a magic bullet. We need long-term data on its safety and efficacy. And we need to understand how it interacts with other medications and individual patient characteristics.
Exactly. It's a complex process, but one that's essential for making sure that these new therapies truly benefit patients in the long run.
And let's not forget the economic implications. If Terzepatide lives up to its potential, it could become one of the most sought-after drugs on the market. This could mean massive profits for Eli Lilly, but it also raises concerns about affordability and access for patients.
You're raising an important point. How do we ensure that these potentially life-saving treatments are available to everyone who needs them, regardless of their financial situation? That's a question we need to address.
Absolutely. It's a complex issue that needs careful consideration.
Well,
But for now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that might be on the minds of many potential patients. Remember those side effects we briefly touched upon earlier? Nausea, diarrhea, those sorts of things? Well, it turns out those side effects might not be entirely bad news.
You're right. This is where things get really interesting. There's a growing body of research suggesting that some of those gastrointestinal side effects associated with Terzepatide and other similar drugs might actually contribute to their effectiveness in weight loss and other areas.
Wait, are you saying those unpleasant side effects might actually be beneficial?
It might sound counterintuitive, but it seems that the slowing down of gastric emptying, which can lead to feelings of nausea and fullness, actually plays a role in appetite regulation.
So it's like your body is saying, hey, I'm full, much quicker than usual.
Exactly. And you naturally end up eating less.
So it's like a built-in portion control mechanism, courtesy of some temporary discomfort. Interesting. But I guess it also means that patients need to be prepared for those side effects and work closely with their doctors to manage them.
Absolutely. Open communication between doctor and patient is key. Patients should feel comfortable discussing any side effects they experience, and doctors can adjust the dosage or provide strategies for managing those effects. It's about finding the right balance between therapeutic benefits and manageable side effects.
A personalized approach to medicine, recognizing that everyone responds differently to medication. It highlights the importance of that doctor-patient relationship, doesn't it?
It does. And speaking of personalized medicine, let's circle back to Eli Lilly's acquisition of that cancer drug program from Scorpion Therapeutics. Remember, that deal was all about a PI3K inhibitor. Well, this is where the idea of precision medicine really comes into play.
Refresh my memory on PI3K inhibitors. It's been a while since we talked about that.
Sure, it's a type of drug that targets a specific enzyme, PI3K, which is often involved in the uncontrolled growth of cancer cells. But here's the key. Not all cancers are created equal. Some cancers have specific mutations that make them more susceptible to PI3K inhibitors. So it's about tailoring treatments to an individual's unique genetic makeup and the specific characteristics of their disease.
So it's like finding the right key for the right lock.
Precisely. That's the essence of precision medicine.
So in the case of this cancer drug program, Eli Lilly is betting on the idea that they can identify those patients whose cancers are most likely to respond to this particular PI3K inhibitor.
Exactly. They're looking for those patients who will benefit the most from this targeted therapy. It's a move away from the one-size-fits-all approach to cancer treatment and towards a more personalized strategy. And that's a trend we're seeing more and more in oncology and other areas of medicine.
It's a fascinating frontier with the potential to transform how we treat a whole range of diseases.
Mm.
But as we discussed earlier, with great potential comes great responsibility. Precision medicine requires these sophisticated diagnostic tools to identify those specific genetic mutations or biomarkers, and those tools can be expensive and not always readily available. It seems like we're constantly navigating this tension between groundbreaking scientific advancements and the complexities of equitable access to healthcare.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's a balancing act that requires ongoing dialogue and collaboration between scientists, healthcare providers, policymakers, and the public. We need to work together to navigate the complexities of precision medicine and make sure its benefits reach everyone, not just a select few.
Well said. Now, after all that optimism about the future of medicine, let's take a closer look at that other piece of news we touched upon earlier, Viracta Therapeutics restructuring. It's a sobering reminder that not every company in the biotech world enjoys the same success as Eli Lilly.
Absolutely. The biotech industry is a high-risk, high-reward arena. Companies are constantly pushing the boundaries of scientific understanding, and not every venture leads to a breakthrough. In Viracta's case, they've had to make some difficult decisions to stay afloat.
You're referring to their workforce reduction and narrowed focus, right?
Yes, they've implemented a substantial reduction in their workforce, letting go of about 42% of their employees. They've also streamlined their board of directors and decided to focus their resources on a specific program called Nanaval.
It sounds like a strategic retreat, consolidating their efforts and resources in hopes of increasing their chances of success. It must be a difficult time for the employees who were let go.
It is. It's a reminder that the pursuit of scientific innovation can have human costs, and it's important to acknowledge the impact of these decisions on individuals and their families.
From a business perspective, though, why the focus on this Nanaval program? What makes it stand out from the rest of their pipeline?
Nanaval targets a type of lymphoma, a cancer that affects the lymphatic system. It's a particularly challenging area to treat, and there's a significant need for new and effective therapies. Viracta is betting on the idea that Nanaval could fill that gap and become a valuable treatment option for patients with this specific type of lymphoma.
So they're focusing on a niche area with high unmet medical need, hoping to become a leader in that specific space. It's a high-stakes gamble, but if it pays off, it could be a win not just for Viracta, but also for the countless patients battling this disease.
Precisely. And it's a reminder that even in the face of challenges, the quest for new and better treatments continues. The biotech world is full of stories of perseverance and unexpected triumphs. Who knows, maybe Viracta's Nanaval program will become one of those inspiring stories.
We'll definitely be following their progress. Well, it seems like we've explored a lot of fascinating developments today, from the potential of Terzepitide to the complexities of precision medicine and the challenging realities of the biotech industry. It's been quite a deep dive, but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Indeed. It's been a thought-provoking journey, and I'm sure our listeners are now armed with a wealth of information and insights.
And hopefully they've been entertained along the way. After all, what's the point of learning if you can't have a little fun with it?
Well said. But before we wrap things up, I think it's time for our signature "This is not financial advice" segment. Are you ready to cook up another outrageous but plausible trade idea?
Always up for a bit of speculative fun. What kind of wild scenario are we dripping up today?
We've talked about Eli Lilly's bold moves in oncology and their potential blockbuster weight loss drug. We've delved into the complexities of precision medicine and the economic implications of these developments. So what if we take all of that and weave it into a grand speculative tapestry?
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lead the way.
Let's take a step back and consider the big picture. We're seeing this major shift in the pharmaceutical industry, a move towards developing drugs that can target multiple pathways and address a variety of health challenges. It's like the Swiss Army knife approach to medicine. One drug, multiple uses.
Right. We touched on that earlier. It's about finding those master regulators, those key molecules that play a role in multiple biological processes.
Exactly. And Terzepitide is a prime example of this, with its potential to treat diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and maybe even some types of cancer. It's just the tip of the iceberg, though. There are other drugs in development showing similar promise. We're entering an era where the lines between different therapeutic areas are blurring, and that creates some interesting opportunities for investors who are willing to think outside the box.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. We need to find a company that's at the forefront of this trend. A company that's developing these multi-purpose drugs that could potentially revolutionize healthcare.
Exactly. And to do that, we need to look beyond the big players like Eli Lilly. We need to dig deeper into the world of small-cap biotech companies where innovation is often brewing beneath the surface.
So we're going treasure hunting, sifting through the small-cap biotech landscape for hidden gems with the potential to become the next Eli Lilly.
Precisely. Now, this is where our "this is not financial advice" disclaimer comes in loud and clear. This is purely hypothetical for entertainment purposes only. We're not suggesting anyone make investment decisions based solely on our speculative brainstorming.
Disclaimer firmly in place. Always do your own research and consult with a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decisions. But let's have some fun with this. What kind of small-cap biotech company are we looking for?
We want a company that's targeting a fundamental biological process that underlies multiple diseases. Think inflammation, oxidative stress, or cellular senescence. Those are the kinds of processes that are implicated in a wide range of conditions.
So we're looking for a company that's developing a drug that's like a master key, unlocking the potential to treat a whole bunch of different diseases at their root.
Exactly. And ideally, we want a company that's already in clinical trials with some early data to support their approach. We're not looking for a moonshot here, but we do want a company with a solid scientific foundation and a realistic path to regulatory approval.
This is starting to sound like a real treasure map. We're looking for a small-cap biotech company targeting a fundamental biological process with a drug that's already in clinical trials. But there's got to be one more piece to this puzzle.
You're right. We need a catalyst, something that will propel this small-cap company into the spotlight. Think positive clinical trial results, a strategic partnership with a big pharma company, or even a buyout offer, something that will make investors sit up and take notice.
So our outrageous but plausible trade idea is to identify a small-cap biotech company that's developing a multi-purpose drug targeting a fundamental biological process that's already in clinical trials and that has a catalyst on the horizon that could send their stock price soaring. It's a long shot, but hey, that's what makes it fun, right?
Absolutely. It's all about identifying those hidden gems with the potential to become the next big thing. But remember, this is purely hypothetical. Don't go rushing out to buy stock in every small-cap biotech company you can find.
Agreed. Always do your own research and consult with a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decisions. But now that we've had our speculative fun, let's bring it back down to earth and delve into some more concrete analysis. We've talked a lot about Eli Lilly's big moves in oncology and weight loss, but we haven't really explored the competitive landscape. What are the other players in this game and how do they stack up against Eli Lilly?
That's an important question. The pharmaceutical industry is incredibly competitive, and Eli Lilly is facing challenges from both established players and up-and-coming biotech companies. Let's start with the oncology space. Eli Lilly's acquisition of that PI3K inhibitor program puts them in direct competition with companies like Novartis, Roche, and Pfizer, all of which have their own targeted therapies in development.
So it's a crowded field with a lot of heavy hitters vying for market share. How does Eli Lilly's drug differentiate itself from the competition?
That's the key question. Eli Lilly is betting on the fact that their PI3K inhibitor targets a specific subtype of the enzyme that's implicated in a wider range of cancers. They're also hoping that their drug will have a better safety profile than some of the existing PI3K inhibitors, which have been plagued by side effects.
So it's a gamble, but one that could pay off big if their drug proves to be more effective and safer than the competition. What about the weight loss market? Terzepitide is generating a lot of buzz, but are there other drugs out there that could pose a threat?
Absolutely. Novo Nordisk's semaglutide, marketed under the brand name Wegovy, is already a major player in the weight loss market. And there are other GLP-1 receptor agonists in development that could challenge tirzepatide's dominance. The competition is heating up, and it'll be interesting to see how Eli Lilly responds.
It sounds like Eli Lilly is facing a multi-front war, battling competitors in both the oncology and weight loss markets. But they've also got a few advantages, right?
Definitely. Eli Lilly is a well-established company with a long history of innovation in the pharmaceutical industry. They have a strong research and development pipeline, a global reach, and a deep understanding of the regulatory landscape. Those are all significant assets that shouldn't be underestimated.
So it's a David and Goliath situation with Eli Lilly playing the role of Goliath, facing off against a swarm of smaller but potentially nimble Davids.
That's a good analogy. It's a battle of giants, and it'll be fascinating to see who emerges victorious.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've covered a lot of ground today exploring the potential of tirzepatide, the promise and challenges of precision medicine, the competitive landscape in oncology and weight loss, and even indulging in some outrageous trade ideas. It's been an enlightening journey, but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Indeed. There's always more to explore, more to learn, and more to speculate about. And that's what makes this field so fascinating.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive. We've packed a lot of information and insights into this episode, but we're not done yet.
Stay tuned because in part 3, we'll delve even deeper into the world of Eli Lilly and explore the future of healthcare.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Talk Tickers. We just wrapped up discussing the intense competition Eli Lilly is facing in both the oncology and weight loss markets. It's a real battle of the titans.
It is, and Eli Lilly is definitely stepping up to the challenge. But what's interesting? It's like their strategy is part of this larger trend we're seeing in the pharmaceutical industry. This move toward developing drugs that can tackle multiple health problems, not just one.
Right. Like those multi-purpose drugs we talked about earlier. It's like the pharmaceutical industry is embracing the Swiss Army knife approach.
Yeah.
One drug, many uses.
Yeah.
It sounds super efficient from a research and development standpoint. And of course, for patients who could benefit from a single treatment for multiple conditions.
Exactly. And this trend goes hand in hand with our growing understanding of how biological systems are all interconnected. We're realizing that many diseases share common underlying pathways. So by targeting those pathways, we might be able to address a whole range of conditions with just one drug, like we're seeing with tirzepatide.
It's like finding the root cause of a problem instead of just treating the symptoms. And tirzepatide is a perfect example. It's showing potential in treating diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, maybe even some types of cancer. It's become a real poster child for this multifaceted approach to drug development.
It really has. And it's not the only one. There are other drugs in development that are showing similar promise. It feels like we're entering a new era in medicine where the lines between different therapeutic areas are blurring. It's exciting stuff.
It's like a revolution in medicine, a shift toward a more holistic and integrated approach to healthcare. But like with any revolution, there are bound to be some challenges. What are some of the hurdles researchers and pharmaceutical companies are facing when it comes to developing these multi-purpose drugs?
You're right. It's not easy. One of the biggest challenges is complexity. Figuring out how a drug interacts with multiple pathways and affects different organs and systems is a huge undertaking. It requires a ton of research, sophisticated modeling techniques, and very carefully designed clinical trials.
I imagine it's like conducting an orchestra, making sure all the instruments are in tune and playing together harmoniously. Except in this case, the instruments are the different biological systems in the human body.
That's a great analogy. And just like an orchestra needs a skilled conductor, developing these multi-purpose drugs requires a team of experts from different fields, pharmacologists, geneticists, clinicians, statisticians, all working together.
It's a huge collaborative effort, bringing together the best minds to solve these incredibly complex scientific puzzles. And then on top of that, there's the regulatory side of things. I bet getting a drug approved for multiple uses adds a whole other level of complexity.
Absolutely. Regulatory agencies like the FDA are very cautious. They want to be sure that a drug is safe and effective for every single use before they give it the green light. And that means conducting multiple clinical trials, which can be incredibly time-consuming and expensive.
It's a delicate balance, ensuring patient safety while also trying to speed up the development of these potentially life-changing treatments. And we can't forget about the economic side of things. How do pharmaceutical companies justify the cost of developing these multi-purpose drugs when research and development costs are already so high?
It's a constant challenge for the industry, but the potential payoff can be huge. If a drug can be used to treat multiple conditions, it opens up a much larger market, which helps offset those big upfront costs. It's a gamble, but one with a potentially massive reward. And if it works, it's a win-win for both the company and the patients.
I see. It's about maximizing the return on investment while also advancing medical science and improving patient outcomes. And there's also the potential cost savings for the healthcare system as a whole. If we can prevent or manage multiple conditions with one drug, it could mean fewer medications, fewer doctor's visits, even fewer hospitalizations. The impact could be huge.
Exactly. It's all about thinking long-term and understanding how healthcare research and development and economics are all connected. It really is. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. From Eli Lilly's strategic moves to the potential of Terzepitide to the rise of precision medicine and the search for multi-purpose therapies. This has been a really insightful deep dive into the pharmaceutical industry.
It really has. I hope our listeners have gained a better understanding of not just the science, but also the intricacies and incredible potential of this industry.
Absolutely. Well, before we wrap up the show, it's time for our traditional "This is not financial advice" segment, ready to channel your inner market guru one last time.
Always game for that.
Yeah.
So we talked about Eli Lilly's big move in oncology and the potential of Terzepitide, but we haven't really discussed the company they acquired that cancer drug from, Scorpion Therapeutics.
Ah, interesting. What kind of scenario can we dream up involving Scorpion Therapeutics?
Okay, so imagine this: Eli Lilly's acquisition of Scorpion's program is even more successful than anyone imagined. The PI3K inhibitor drug sails through clinical trials. It's remarkably effective against many types of cancer with almost no side effects.
It's hard to even imagine a world where cancer becomes a manageable chronic illness instead of a life-threatening disease. But it's a hopeful thought.
It is. Now, let's say that Scorpion Therapeutics, even after being acquired, still has other promising drug candidates in their portfolio. These candidates are targeting different pathways, different mechanisms of action, potentially addressing unmet needs in various therapeutic areas.
So Eli Lilly got the golden goose, but there are still some golden eggs left.
Exactly. And here's our speculative trade idea. As the success of the PI3K inhibitor becomes undeniable, investors are going to start looking at those remaining Scorpion Therapeutics assets with a lot of interest.
It's like finding a treasure map and then realizing there's even more buried treasure just waiting to be unearthed.
That's the idea. So how do we play this? We figure out a way to invest in the potential upside of those remaining Scorpion Therapeutics assets. But this is where it gets tricky because those assets are now part of Eli Lilly.
So we can't just buy stock in Scorpion Therapeutics directly because they've been acquired. We have to find a way to target those assets within Eli Lilly's portfolio specifically.
That's the challenge. Maybe Eli Lilly spun off those assets into a separate subsidiary, or maybe they created a tracking stock that reflects their performance. It might take some digging and some creative thinking.
Like searching for clues in the fine print. And if we find them, we could potentially profit from the success of those assets without having to bet on all of Eli Lilly.
Precisely. It's a high-risk, high-reward scenario. But the payoff could be huge if those assets turn out to be as valuable as the PI3K inhibitor.
Of course, this is all completely hypothetical and for entertainment purposes only. We are not financial advisors, and this is definitely not financial advice. Always do your own research and consult with a professional before making any investment decisions.
Absolutely. We're just having a little fun exploring the possibilities, but who knows? Maybe our wild speculation will inspire our listeners.
That's what Talk Tickers is all about. Yeah. Inspiring curiosity, getting those mental gears turning, and hopefully entertaining you along the way.
Well said. Well, it looks like it's time to wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of Eli Lilly and the future of healthcare.
We've covered a lot today. From the newest advances in drug development to the complexities of the biotech industry. It's a really fascinating field, and we're excited to see what the future holds.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and always remember to do your own research.
And that's it for today. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next Deep Dive.